Hello and welcome to the first van vlog in an awfully long time. If you are a relatively new subscriber to this channel, you may be wondering about that extended silence. And the reason is that I also own a traditional English narrowboat, which is where I'm standing now. And over the summer, I go cruising on the canals of England on the boat, and the van has to go off to storage. Now, I do have a separate YouTube channel about my adventures on the boat. If you haven't seen it, it's called Cruising the Cut, and I will leave a link to that in the video description below. However, it is now winter, the boat gets moored up in one spot for winter, and that means I can retrieve the van and get on with doing some DIY projects on it, and maybe even go for a trip or two. So, let's go and get the van. Here he is. It's Vanny, looking fine and dandy. And I've managed to open the door, so the battery is not dead. That is good. There's a little bit of bird poo, I notice, on the side here. Needs to be cleaned off. We are up and running. It was a little hesitant to go, but started on the first turn of the key. Fantastic. This is going to be a fairly short video, just a quick update really on some projects I have planned for the van. It drove back absolutely fine, perfectly well, so that is all good. I have never been entirely happy with some of the things in here, and I want to redo certain aspects. For example, the shelf over the kitchen unit. Keep wanting to call it a galley because of being on the boat, but the shelf over the kitchen unit, it's fine. I've got little light items there, but I would like to make it more cupboard-like. And speaking of cupboards, I would also like to put some cupboards across the back. It was always part of my plan to have just a small set of cupboards right across the top over the back, and then that will probably need a vertical support down here to hold the cupboards up as well, which will make this corner area into more of its own separate little shelf section as well. And then the unit that is shelves and in the corner over there is, I mean, that was the worst bodged bit of anything I did in the whole van, I think. I've never been terribly happy with it. So as part of the remaking the shelf over the kitchen and making shelves across the back, I will also remake that corner unit. So the whole storage in here should be a lot better once I've done. What I have found when I've used the van so far is it's all very well having storage under the seats and lifting up the seats to get in there, but it is a bit of a pain, particularly just when I am settling down for the night, going to sleep. One takes one's clothes off. Well, now where do you put them? They've ended up just strewn across the back, and I think a little bit more shelving for socks and pants and clothes and things would be nice to have, and that's my long-term project. A more immediate and easy project to do is that I've bought this fabric tube. This is from Propex, the people who make the gas heater that I've got in the van. And they didn't have this out when I put my heater in. This is something fairly new to them. But the idea is that this is the ducting that takes the hot air from the heater round and out to wherever you have your heater duct in the van. And the one that came with the heater is a sort of cardboard with a silver lining on it, presumably the silver to do with keeping the heat in. And it's all quite noisy. It makes quite a roar. And this fabric one apparently cuts the noise down because it's fabric. I guess the air just takes a softer path through it or something. I don't know how it works. But the idea is it cuts down the noise in the van of the heater unit blowing by quite a lot, 10 dB apparently. So I've loaded up a little app onto my phone that can measure noise levels, and we will test it with the existing heat ducting, and then this is just a push-fit replacement, and we'll see if it really does make a difference. They also make a little exhaust kit for the exhaust pipe, which I haven't bought because that presumably is to make it quieter outside, and actually it's really quiet outside anyway, so I'm not too bothered about that. I am still slightly paranoid about the temperature of the exhaust pipe on the heater, because where I mounted it, and it really was the only place I could sensibly mount it, the exhaust pipe does go out within the van before it actually exits, and although I've put loads of heat-proof stuff, wrap, over the exhaust pipe. I get a bit worried about it, but I've also forgotten I have bought this for the boat, and this is one of those little temperature gauge readers. So what I'm going to do is run the heater for a good 20-30 minutes until it is properly steaming hot, and then I will fire this at where the exhaust pipe comes out of the bottom of the heater and all along the length of the exhaust pipe wrapped in its wrap, and we'll see just how hot it's actually getting and whether I am right to be paranoid about it or in fact it's completely fine. I've also, as an experiment, bought this blue stuff, which is the heat wrap that Propex are now selling. Again, they've changed it. When I put the heater in, they were selling this red heat wrap stuff with a very thick, furry glass interior, and now they're selling this blue stuff, which has virtually no, I don't know if you can see it. I mean, look, it's so thin, there's virtually no glass fibre in there, but this is what they're now selling as their exhaust wrap. So I don't know whether it's better or worse, and I thought I'd buy that as a bit of an experiment and give that a go as well. I think that is it for the immediate project. Oh no, it isn't, I lie, complete nonsense. The dining table, which I only put in because in order to get the DVLA to reclassify the van from a van to a camper van, you have to have a dining table, which can be detachable, but the thing it attaches to has to be fixed into the van. And I made one up, and it's not terribly useful as a dining table because you can't really sit at it. So what I'm going to do is scrap the dining table, leave the fixings in place, and make what will amount to effectively a breakfast bar across the front of the kitchen area, and that way someone can sit here and I can sit here and you can sit at the little breakfast bar, and I think that will be a more useful table. And finally, I'm going to continue mulling over the supports for the bed extension. When you pull the bed out, I've got these legs that come out to hold it up, but I'm not a great fan of them. I need to come up with a better design. That really is it, I think. The only final thing of note is that I have possibly killed the battery. I left it sitting on the solar power, just set to a float value, because there was everything was switched off. There was no drain on the battery. It just needed to be kept on a float charge, and that I did. But I noticed when I picked the van up that the history, because there's this little app on your phone that shows you the history of how the battery's doing. Overnight, it was going down to about 12.4 volts. Well, sitting full and unused on a float charge, it should drop to no less than full, 12.7 overnight, but it's dropping down to 12.4. So something, there's nothing switched on, but something is allowing the battery to drain, or the battery hasn't been properly charged by keeping it on float. There's a lot of exploration to do on why the battery isn't staying at 12.7 overnight, but losing a little bit of its capacity. And I don't know if I've managed to kill it somehow with my solar settings, not sure. That's something to investigate. So quite a lot of DIY projects to do. In terms of taking the van away, it depends largely on the weather. We are supposedly in for a very cold and wet winter here, and so far November has been pretty chilly. So we'll see. I really like the look of the Peak District when I saw that from the canal boat, and it's not a million miles away from here, so I would quite like to take the van up to the Peak District. Lovely rolling hills and cute stone cottages and all sorts of picturesque stuff. So that will be one trip I will do. As for any others, I don't know. See where the mood takes me. Anyway, that is it for now. Just a little update to say I am here, I am going to do some more van videos, I've been away, and now I am back. So, thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in, and if you have, thank you for subscribing. Cheers now, bye-bye.